Hi everyone, in this video we're gonna create this awesome AirPods Max showcase card from Apple in today's video using React, style components, and frame of motion with really awesome transitions, a sliding animation, all in React. So this is actually going to be turning this particular design I found on Dribbles. As always, just like looking for Dribbles, and I really got into this design. It looks pretty sick with the newly released AirPods Max from Apple. As you can see, always Apple does a great job on designing their things. I'm not pretty sure this one is just like a really good headphones, but I'm pretty sure they have a really awesome kind of looking design and everything. So I really like the design. There's a lot of people liking the design in here. I'm not talking about the comfort or anything, but really into the design and colors and everything. And this greenish color looks absolutely amazing. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this video. I'm going to turn in this card into a reward card using React into this one with some cool animation. If you click the button, we got this really awesome animation. We got images. We got this really 3D looking animation, or pretty much image just like popping out of the card and everything. So that's basically what I'm going to be creating this video tutorial. And yeah, so without further ado guys, hope you guys enjoyed it, and let's go ahead and jump right into it. So let's go ahead and get started. I already set up the project in here, as I actually every video tutorial I do that. So as curious, in here we got a Create React App project. If you're not familiar with that, just you can go and Google out Create React App, or just like revert to my one of video tutorials. I explained Create React App CLI very well and how to use it. So without further ado here, I already did install the actual dependencies and did set up the project. But here actually just like a basic project has AirPods Max. If you take a look on it, just an empty page and has some text on it, so we can just get straight into the box. So this is basically what it has, and this is everything we're going to be working on. It's just like a sample empty project to get started with. Now the dependencies we're going to be needing throughout these projects are pretty straightforward. So if you are actually watching my video tutorials, my other video tutorials like concerning design and website development and stuff like that, I mainly use this just two dependencies. One, most importantly, is style components. So I use this pretty much everywhere just to do CSS in JavaScript. And the second one for doing animation using React declarative API with a smooth spring animation is frame of motion. So if you're not familiar with frame of motion, I did a full discussion between like React Spring and other CSS transition or animation, and just did like comparisons in general, which one you should go for as a developer and which one is the best. So you can check this out as well on my channel or in the video description below. So yeah, without further ado here, I'm just going to go and install stuff. So I'm going to just do style components first and so frame of motion. So both of these are going to be installed as I said before, and frame of motion just like for animating our components, since there's going to be a lot of animating or animation going on, so as you've seen before. So that's basically what we install. And after that, just go ahead and start the development server, which I already did in here, and everything is running onto like localhost 3000 page. Refresh, I get the same page in here, which is just saying AirPods Max. Pretty straightforward. Now let's go ahead and get started. And before saying or getting started with that, I'm just going to show you exactly like what I did, like set up for that, because you're going to need a couple of images to get started, like this one, AirPod Max PNG, which is basically this one. I did like some background removal on one of the Apple's images, the green one. So yeah, I'm just like did background removal because I wanted this to get out of the boundaries and stuff like that, as you've seen before. So just to make this effective, we have to get or to have like a nice transparent background for our images right here. And the second one's just gonna need like blank images in here just for showing like the Apple products, as the Apple pretty much does on their websites whenever you try to check out or something like this. Lightning USB and a smart case and a quality, just some cool shot on, some woman just wearing this kind of new AirPods Max. And if you're not familiar with AirPods Max, it's actually the newly released headphones from Apple, which are overly overpriced. And I can see in general, they are looking pretty futuristic and the design looks pretty cool. But as I've seen a lot of people saying it doesn't actually worth, I don't know, like $500 or $550 or something like that, which is ridiculous price for the headphones. But anyhow, we're gonna design this because it looks awesome, and also like inspired it from like a dribble kind of like design I found there. I can like link you with that in the description below, and you can hopefully just check it out by yourself. So yeah, without further ado here, let's go and get started. And before getting started, like what the stuff I needed in here, I already did set up 2 fonts. One is called Hibo, if I'm spelling that right, from Google Fonts, which is free, and it just did HTML body and root, width and height, both are 100%, and made sure to use font family Hibo as the main font family for our application here, and that is it. That's basically all I did for that, just to make that work. Okay, now let's go ahead and get inside of the SRC and get started with our components. So create a components folder, and here inside of it, we're going to name it AirPods card, just something like this. Should be pretty simple, and get started with index.jsx. So this one is actually the main entry point for our React card there. And starting with import React, import style components, as always, just like the basic stuff that we need to get started with. And here I'm going to export a function which is going to be like the AirPods, like the same thing as our folder, because this is the main entry point. So it's going to be AirPods card. We're going to have props, which we will probably not need anyway. And here we're going to create a container for it, like the main card container that it contains all the elements for that. So I'm going to just do card container. I'm going to use style components to do all of that kind of work right first. So I'm going to just give it some width and height. For example, width, I'm going to say 290 pixels. I try to like inspire from the design as much as possible, just to get it right and looking as good as that design. So yeah, that's why I'm just providing this width and height, which I already did some tests with, and they look good that way. You can manage it however you want, but yeah, that one will look perfect with our design, with our like all the fonts we're going to be using over that. I'm going to be needing also like some border radius. I'm going to need a lot of border radius, so something like 28 pixels should do the job. Also going to be needing some box shadow. For the box shadow, well, just need to pop this card so we make it like it's popping out like a card, you know what I mean? So we need some box shadow just to give it some shadow that it pops out the background, so it looks something realistic that is coming out to life or something like this. So yeah, I'm going to be needing that too. I'm going to give it like 12 pixels in that case, 1 pixels for the spreading. Maybe here we're going to give it like 15 for like some grayish look, to 0.15 on the RGBA, or 12 or something like that. That will look hopefully good. And maybe I'm going to also be needing some position relative, because later on we're going to be needing this particular attribute in here. Is we're going to be using it to position our like headphones image and like beneath that container properly, and just don't clip it because of the overflow. You will understand exactly what I'm trying to say once we get into that particular issue. But yeah, so without further ado, this is mainly the container that we're going to be needing for all of that. Also, I'm going to be needing a card wrapper, and this one is actually the wrapper for elements. So you can imagine this as the main container. This one is going to be like an inside container for it, right? So I'm going to be needing display flags and a flags direction. I bet I'm just going to leave a flags direction of row, because that's what we need. I want this to take the full width, full height too, as always. And I want to clip everything that gets out of this container. So everything that gets out, any kind of element, any kind of color, background, anything that gets out of this particular card wrapper, which is basically this kind of card container, it's going to be clipped out, so the overflow won't be shown anyway. So this is exactly what we're going to be needing in that case. And last but not least, we have to put the same border radius, otherwise it will like just work pretty weirdly with us, and the style will look not really that good, and it won't match with the card container style. So that's basically what I'm trying to do there. Okay, so that's pretty much simply what we need for that particular function, right? I think this is all we're going to be needing for now. So I'm going to do card container, then card wrapper, so both in here, and here we're going to put the elements. So I'm just going to like put overview or something like that, so we can get started with. Go back here, and I can go with AirPods card. And here for the app container, I'm just putting display flags and aligning all the items horizontally and vertically on the center. So both of them are centered horizontally and vertically just to get that particular overview. And there you go, we got our card already. So it's clearly seen here, looks pretty great. The box shadow, the border radius and everything. So that is looking so far so good. Yeah, this is actually the first step and it's looking absolutely amazing already. Now let's jump into the next components. I'm going to be creating, the next component is going to be like the overview components. I'm going to name it overview.jsx. Again, so I'm going to import React. For that sake, I'm also going to do a const, so overview container. And for that particular part, I'm going to use style. It's going to just do an auto import for us because of like VS Code superpowers. So that is looking absolutely great, as I said before. And what I'm going to be seeing here for this particular container is actually going to take pretty much the same width and height for the card container. So it's going to take the full width, the full height, and what we're going to be doing is actually try to render two containers to play this kind of like sliding transition from right to left. Whenever we click on the overview button, as you've seen before, it just like slides down really smoothly with this cool animation from right to left, and it just like removes the overview container and grabs us the buy container where we can view the products and just like click buy to buy that product or whatever. So just to do the slide transition, we have to do it this way. We have to just like make one container shown at a time because the overflow is going to be hidden, so we won't see whatever is actually outside. So we make this container take full width, then we can go ahead and manage the positions. So we say this one, oh, take the X position and make it -1000 or something like that. So it gets out of the card container, which is going to be clipped away because of the overflow is going to be hidden and this kind of stuff. So that's basically what we're going to be doing for this particular part here. And make sure to put minimum width and minimum height to be 100%. So to make sure this overview container takes the full width and the full height of the card container. Okay, so min height. So okay, looking so good already. I'm going to be using display flags and some flex direction to the column as well. We will also need to align the items horizontally to be centered because we're using flex direction to be column. And for the design, what we're going to be needing in that case is actually we're going to need to reverse everything. So we're going to be needing to use column reverse because in that case, I'm going to be using like the pretty much the AirPods image is going to be positioned absolute, which means it's going to take no effects with the flexbox constraint anyway. So that means we need to display something like beneath that particular image. So something starts at the end, like the overview button and pretty much the AirPods Max kind of text or title, whatever, at the end. So column reverse will make it start from the bottom to the top. So just like reverse everything up. So that's why I'm doing it in that particular part right here. Okay. And yeah, I'm going to be needing some background image because I'm going to just like import this cool, like girlish, wearing some AirPods Max cool image. So that's going to be doing in here. I'm going to do AirPod Max background image. I'm going to import this assets images, and I believe it's called audio quality.jpg. And for this one, I'm going to just provide the background. I'm going to use URL. Then I'm going to integrate it or hook it up using the power of like template rituals. I'm just going to do AirPod Max background image, and that should do the job for us perfectly. So make sure to just put centered there, and it should put it right into the box. Now also going to be needing like background size to be cover. This way it will take like the full width and the full height of the image. So let me just show you guys exactly what we're doing in here. I'm going to export a function of overview. It's going to say props return overview container, and in that particular part I'm just going to do overview just for now. And yeah, so let's go to up.js. I believe it's AirPods. Yeah, exactly. And here I'm just gonna put the overview container, and that should do it. And there you go. So we already got the image exactly looking absolutely amazing. It just does look really, really good already. Just like perfectly matches the colors and the greenish and everything from that. So yeah, we are almost done with the component pretty much. So that's looking sick, really sick. Yeah, so let's go ahead, as I said before. So the image right now, since we did cover, so it's like kind of centered, but not really. I want to just to offset this a bit to the right. So for that, we're going to be using some property called background position. This way we can just like, you know, offset the position of X and Y of this particular image. So we can do position and just go ahead and offset that. We're going to do minus 53 pixels, 0 pixels on the Y axis, of course. We're not going to be needing that. And also make sure to do some border radius, otherwise it won't work for you. So just border radius, 28 pixels. Most of the time is going to just like make it look better, but you can ignore that. That's not a big of a deal already, because you're using overflow hidden anyway, so that should do the job perfectly. And I'm going to be using some padding from the bottom as well, because we're going to put the items on the bottom. So for that case, we're going to need some padding bottom 3em, and that should do the job. So I bet here there are some changes. Yeah, so it's clear to see the image got shifted a bit to the right, which is looking way much better right now than it was. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and right now and add the kind of like title and the button and everything that we're going to be needing. So I'm going to be using this one. I'm going to do title containers. I'm going to create a particular container for our title. And for this one, I'm going to use display flex and also do a flex direction of column. So we can do column direction to be that. I'm also going to just adjust the line height, because I don't want the text to be super huge or something away from each other. So I'm just going to adjust that a bit. And margin bottom, also I'm going to give it some margin to the bottom so it gets popped out of the other stuff. Here I'm going to have the title. It's going to be basically a style.h1, so it's going to be like a title 1 or something. I'm going to completely get rid of margin. For the color, it's going to be FFF, and mainly for the font size, we're going to be needing a huge font size for that case. So 85 pixels, maybe 60 pixels should do it. And the font weight in here, I'm going to just need some bold font, which is 700. I guess you should do a job. So I'm going to need title container. Okay, there is that. So title container and title. So I'm going to here put AirPods, and in the next line I'm going to put Max, just to split it out into 2 lines. That way we could make it look way much better than it is. So going right here, and there you go. So we got already the AirPods Max being centered exactly as we want them, and also it's just going to give them some margin from the bottom. And if you just get it right now, if you're like noticing, we are getting this AirPods Max at the bottom instead of the top, because obviously if you put something in HTML and React or something like that to render the browser, it should start like from top to bottom. In the case we're using column reverse, so it starts from bottom to top. So that's the point. We want it to start from bottom to top, just to display everything starting from bottom to the top, and just like leave all the top empty just for the image show. And that's exactly what we're doing right there. Okay, so that's looking pretty sick already, pretty cool. Now I'm going to be needing to add the button, and for the button I'm going to create another file. I'm going to name this comment file, comment.jsx, and because the button is going to be like something mutual, like it's going to be a common thing, it's going to be used by different components, so we want to just put it into a single file that can be shared across multiple components. This way, much easier to maintain and work with. Okay, so I'm going to just do export const and button. So I'm going to export styled. I'm also only going to be needing style.button in that case. So for the button, it's going to need some like specific configuration for that. I already like did some styling for the button just to give it the right look and feel for it. So we might need some like 15 pixels padding just to make it a bit wider or taller, and for example like 2.4 em to make it wider, because we want some like huge button to cover up almost the whole card. That way it looks way much better. I'm gonna just override this outline, the border too. We don't need any border or whatever, so border is gonna be none. As call that, and also some border radius. I'm completely just like put the same border radius as the cards container. This way it just like matches the border radius. It makes it look super cool. It's like, you know, it's mixed up and matched. For the color of the text, FFF, that way it should look good. And the font weight should look something like 600. We don't want something too bold, just something regular to medium, and that should do it a bit. And yeah, so for the background color, I'm gonna use some linear gradients background color. Already did the math for that. I used some cool website to do linear gradients, which is called csgradient.io. So that way, just you can grab and mix and match CSS gradient, just copy the code, and that should look this way as it is. Now for the cursor, we want this to be a pointer, and we want to need to do some transition for some animation. So I'm just gonna do transition all, maybe need to 3 2 any in and out. That should do it perfectly for us. And yeah, so I'm gonna be also like to do hover, and for this one I'm gonna do background color as well, just to mix and match it as well. So for the RGB, I'm gonna provide mainly the same RGB here, but I'm just gonna grab the color from right now here. So I got it the website, and that is a bit darker. If you notice, that is a bit darker than the other colors, and that should give it a really look and feel. That's we are hovering over this button, and it should look sick already. So yeah, so that should look good. Let's go ahead and add the button. So we just go ahead and add button, and let's say overview right here. That should make it look good already. And there you go. So you got overview on the bottom, you got AirPods Max on the top in here, looking pretty great. And the overview here is just like looking so good already. And maybe like need to add some font size to it just to make it a bit bigger. Something like 18 pixels or something. I bet. And yeah, it's definitely much better now. And I was curious to see whenever you hover over it, get this really awesome smooth transition into it, which is looking absolutely great. And the text is absolutely positioned, the image, everything is just making it look so smooth, and it's kind of like slideshow. So yeah, I like this kind of design. I love this one. Now what we want for this particular one, this is actually like the first page the user sees whenever he just like opens the card or opens the website or whatever you want to put this kind of particular card. But the main reason in here is actually whenever he clicks on this particular button, what it does is just like you click on that, I'm going to get this really smooth and awesome transition from right to left, and I'm going to get all the items of the buy card container. We can just like go ahead and preview the headset. We can just preview what comes in the box, as Apple does. For example, it comes in the box with a lightning cable and the headset itself, and pretty much like you know, this silly kind of I don't know how to say that, AirPods sweet case. I don't know if it's exactly the same name as Apple does name it, but I'm not pretty sure, but I guess it is. So yeah, that's basically what we want to do for that next. So let's go ahead and create the second buy cart component. I'm gonna name this, it's gonna be right here. So I'm gonna name it buy products.gsx. Okay, that should do the job. And I'm gonna import React from React as always. I'm gonna export a function to be named by products. I'm gonna have props, and we're gonna be like the container, the main buy products container. Okay, so that way, import styled, say .div in that particular manner, and that should make it work. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. Make sure to give it minimum width and minimum height to take the full height of the card. Okay, so 100% here, and minimum height is going to be 100% too, just to take the full width and the full height so we can do this transition really smoothly. So I'm going to have display flex just to get stuff running, and flex direction is going to be column reverse again, because we need to just like display stuff on the bottom, and we're going to need some like position absolute stuff on the top, so we don't want to mess this out. I want to start from bottom to top, so column reverse is the way to go. Okay, and border radius going to be the same thing as we did before, so 28 pixels as of the card container, and mainly the background color in here we're going to be using some like linear gradient background color, because before the actual image we use as a background has the actual color built in as a greenish kind of color, but right now we need to use our own color because this is going to be like drawn by ourselves. There is actually no ready made up images to display. Okay, so I already got some colors mix and match in here, so I can copy paste, but it's basically some greenish as we did before on the hover for the bottom and everything. So it's going to be like the same kind of, you know, it's pretty same pretty much for both of these colors. Okay, and I'm going to be doing like some padding, just mainly some 10 pixels padding, anything like that, and yeah, so that should do the job perfectly for us, as you can see. And next what we're going to be needing is actually the info container. So with this info container, I'm going to use styled again, going to be a div, and this is pretty much the container where we show the information, like we show a buy button on the bottom, and just right above it we show some like what is included in the box, you know, the case of the AirPods and the AirPods itself, and not any cable or something like that. So like Apple does on their checkout page whenever you try to buy one of their products pretty much. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing right in that particular case. And I'm going to just do 100% for the width, because I want to take the full width for that. We've already got some padding, so we're just going to create some padding between the container and the info container. And for the height, we're not going to make it take the full height, just 40% of it should do a job. Display flex, and the direction should be column, as always as did before. And some justify contents, we want space around, so we want to just like give some space in the middle between two components we're going to be having, because we're going to have only two components in that case. Now for the background color, I'm going to use some FA, and this one it's almost white, but it's not really white. It's kind of like super tiny, small, grayish color. Okay, just this one to match the actual images we got from the Apple's website, because they have this awesome grayish color. Plus, this grayish color will make it look much better than just having it plain white. Okay, so this one is definitely better than just like plain white. And lastly, we're gonna have border radius. This is gonna be 30 pixels. Okay, just some border radius. I'm gonna give it more border radius than the actual container. And for the pattern, I'm gonna give it like 10 pixels top and bottom, and basically like 14 pixels left and right. Okay, this way it should look definitely better, as we all know it in that particular case. Okay, so yeah, I guess that is looking pretty great so far for the info container. Now we're gonna have the next container, which is gonna be inbox container, which is just the items what we have. So this one is gonna be div again, display flex, and width is gonna take 100% width as always. And for the justify content, I'm just gonna give it space around again, just to give some spacing like between this kind of stuff. Okay, it will look definitely better. And now we're gonna have like some accessory, and this one is actually like each item. It's like either a lighting cable, or like the actual case, or the actual headsets, or whatever, just like the images container. Okay, So for this one, I'm gonna have some width to be auto. Always use width auto. I talked about this in pretty much every single tutorial I do, because just like width auto, and you can specify your own custom height. This way you can preserve the aspect ratio of the particular image you're actually including and rendering. Better than just like specifying both will just like make you like violate the actual aspect ratio, and the image will look, you know, not normal anyways. It will look just like super awful and not really natural. Okay, just like make sure to always like preserve the aspect ratio at any case, at any pressure, whatever kind of stuff. Okay, cool. Now we got the height right here. I'm gonna use something like 6 cm, and the image inside is gonna be width again. It's gonna be auto as always. Okay, and the height is gonna take 400%. Pretty cool. Okay, that's basically what we're gonna need. Now we're gonna do by products container, and we're gonna have some info container, and instead of the info container, we're gonna have inbox container. Is gonna have the accessory items, which gonna have an image, and for this image, you're gonna have some images that are gonna be provided like here. And last but not least, you're gonna have the button itself, and this one is gonna say buy. Okay, now let's go and import the images real quick. So I'm gonna import first, so it's gonna be lightning cable image from, so assets, images, and I bet it's lightning cable USB-C. Okay, next we're gonna just do this one is front, so I'm gonna do AirPods Max image front, or I should say front image, right? And last but not least, now we're gonna be using the smart case. It's called the smart case. Cool. So let's go ahead and have let me use the mouse a little bit here, and I'm gonna do smart case AMG. Cool, so let's go ahead and put this in here. First we're going to be needing the headset, so it's going to be AirPods Max front, copy paste this one, and we're going to be needing it's smart case. Last but not least, we're going to have the lightning cable included in that. So let's go ahead and try this one. Let me just go back right here. For now, let's get over the overview, and let's have the buy card. Alright, so go back here, and okay, I guess I'm not including the button inside of the info container, which I should, and I'm not putting it, yeah. Alright, let's copy this, and there you go. It looks super sweet already. We got the buy button here. It's looking pretty well made up. We got like what's in the box. We could include some text on top in here, like say what is in the box, but that should be pretty self-explanatory, like what's going on in here. Now on the top, on this empty area, we want to display the full image of the actual headset, of the actual AirPods Max headset on here, and we want it to look like more 3D, so we want just to give it or make it go outside of this container. That's why I'm not going to be putting it inside of this container, because if I do put it inside of this container, and if you remember, if we go back inside of this one, we already got some overflow hidden. So whatever is going to come as a child inside of this card wrapper is going to be having like overflow hidden, and it's going to be clipped out outside of the boundaries. So anything that comes outside of these boundaries of this container is going to be clipped out, and it's going to be completely hidden. So we don't want to do that. We want to just display this inside or like underneath the card container, so we can have this cool and awesome effect. All right, so let's go ahead and do this for the AirPods Max now. So AirPods Max, so it's going to be equals style.div. So it's going to be with auto height, I don't know, 20 something like this, and auto again, and height is going to be 100%. All right. So that should make it look good already with the by card and everything. So we want to put that right here. We want to put some image. So let's go and import the actual image of this. AirPods Max EMG from images, and we got AirPods Max. Okay, that should make it look good right here. For that particular card, it should pretty much make it just perfectly wrapped up, and just like you can get it out of the container because it's not going to be inside of the card wrapper, which is having overflow hidden. Now everything else is going to have that. If you're asking yourself why to doing this, it's just basically for the animation and for the transition to make it work perfectly. Okay, so that's why we're doing it right there. Now here we're going to need some position absolute, otherwise it won't work with us. So I'm going to just need position absolute. I want to position it perfectly so it would match. So I'm going to need something like 23 AM for that to work. And for the top, I'm going to have like 2.9 AM. And remember, since we put like already position relative, so it's going to take this like encaster as its like relative parent, so it to give the relative position into it. Okay, so that's what's going to be happening here for the top. Let's go 2.9 EM maybe. And also I'm going to need some bright, so I wanted to just get out a bit, so I'm just going to give it 1.7 EM, something like that. I best should to make it look good. Some Z index of 99 just to make it above everything else. And yeah, that should make it look good already. If you just take a look on it, there you go. So it looks pretty smooth. It's clearly what I was talking about. So this one is just getting out. If you put it inside of the card wrapper, which has overflow hidden property, this one will be hidden. This parts which are like outside of the card container is going to be completely hidden, and you won't be able to see them, and you won't be able to create this really awesome effect of just like something standing out, something like a 3D and something much more futuristic, and just like makes it look super good. So as clearly this is looking absolutely fine and absolutely good. Now what we want is actually to do the transition and to do the animation. So whenever we are actually on the overview page, we click on that button, we get this really smooth, awesome transition. We get this headset in here to be like, you know, some opacity transition just to come out and pop out and like fade in or fade out. You know what I mean? So that's exactly what I want to do in that particular steps right now. Now, to be able to actually like control the actual transition, we want some properties, some state to manipulate using the React state. So for doing the animation, what we want is actually whenever we click on the overview button, we transition one property. For example, let's say there's an active property on the state that is called active, and it has two values, either overview or by, or just by, okay? So in that particular case, if it's overview, we're going to render out the overview card. Otherwise, if it's by product, we're going to render out the like by product card, okay? So let's go ahead and render both of these as we are actually intending to do. So if we put in that particular case, we're only going to see this, you know, the overview card, but we're going to also see this in top because we are rendering it actually on top of it. So we're going to need some condition also to hide this, only show it inside of the by card. So let's go ahead and not just worry about that. If we go ahead and inspect the elements real quick, take a look right underneath this one. So we got the button, we don't need to do that. So this is actually the two containers I'm talking about. So this one is the overview, basically. So I bet this one is the image. Yeah, so this is actually the two containers. So this one is the overview container, which is the currently one we are seeing. And the other one is actually the by card. So clearly just from the highlights, it's just being like moved out into the right because this one is just taking its place and it's being rendered first. And since it's taking full width and full height, it's actually forcing the second container, the by card container, just to get out of the container. And since we already did overflow hidden, we don't see that. Cool, right? So it's completely hidden, but it's still there. It's still rendered. Now it wants actually whenever we click on this button to move this card to the left and grab the other one just straight right into it from right to left. Okay, so that's exactly the animation I want to intend to do. So let's go ahead and put a context. Just go ahead and use React context just to control and hold this state and be able to control them on the like this encaster children real quick without any issues. So let's go ahead and put a context. I'm going to do context.js. First, we're going to have an initial state for this context as always. And initial is going to be start with active, just like overview, and we're going to have a function that triggers the change for the active. For now, it's going to be empty. It's going to export, so it's going to be a card context. I'm going to use React.create context. I'm going to be passing it the actual initial state. Okay, should be good. Let's go inside of here and let's go and create the actual, or pretty much let's first start putting the card container, and I'm going to just use provider, or I think it's named card context. Okay, my bad. And I'm going to be using the provider. So here we just need to provide everything to this card container. Okay, I'm going to give it some value, and I was going to put the value just after using some state. So the state is going to be called active or set active. So this is actually the main components that are going to be responsible for controlling the whole state, and we can just like distribute it to the children using the context API right there. So the state in here is going to start with overview as active. I'm going to create the context value, and for this one is going to have active and set active. Pretty basic. I just provide it right here, and now this value is going to be provided to all the children inside of this, and all we're going to be needed on is actually just the overview components and the buy product components. So this is both the components are going to be needing this context value to be accessed on. So yeah, so that's basically what we're going to be needing for that particular case to use the context. Now let's go ahead inside of this overview. So inside of the overview right now, we can go ahead and access and just tell it exactly when to switch and when to not. So let's go ahead and access the values. We're going to have like active and set active. And using the power of hooks, we can just use context. Then we can provide it with card context, and we are actually good to go. You're going to do everything for us, all the jobs. You're going to provide it through active and set active. Now, in that case, I'm going to create a function called switch to buy, and this one is going to take us to the next part. We're going to set active buy, and that's it. That's pretty much right into it. So like whenever we click the button, now we want is actually to register an on click. So whenever we click the button, we're going to switch to buy. Basic as that. Now it will switch, but it won't do the actual animation. It won't do anything pretty much, because we don't have any logics or any like if statement controlling this particular animation. Now this is where the time we are actually ready to go ahead and use Frame of Motion API and the power of Frame of Motion. Now to use Frame of Motion, if you're not familiar with that, we need to actually define the motion here, like the container we want to animate, to use the frame of motion instead of like the style div. We still need to use style just to give it some CSS and JS style, but for that, anything other than that, we need to use motion, which is going to be like imported from frame of motion screen on top in here. Let me grab it in the bottom, and we need to access the API and whatever elements we want to use. In this case, we want to use div. Just put it right here so we could provide us with the API, and we can use the frame of motion API freely. Okay, now animation from like frame of motion is pretty simple. The API has a lot of stuff, but all we want to cover is actually the horizontal movement, which is like the X value, just basically what it is. So we want to move the X value from one value to another just to apply the animation. That's basically what it is. So here we go. I'm going to create like an object. It's going to name it animate, and it's going to be an empty object at first. Now I'm going to do an if statement. So let's say if active is actually overview. Now this one I'm going to put some stuff on the animate. So I'm going to just like put the X value on the animate to be 0. And 0 in this case means the overview card is going to be like the one it's just like going to be showing up on the card because it has a 0 position. It's not going to be offsetted to the left or to the right. Else, if active is actually something like by, now I'm going to have animate equals to x. I'm going to just give it minus 290, and this one is going to make it go to the actual lefts because minus in here, it goes left, you know, plus goes right, just basic algebra or geometry, whatever. But yeah, pretty simple, right? So that's exactly what I want to do it in that particular case. And all we have to do is just provide this animate objects into this one, and it should make it work perfectly. So this is actually for the overview. Let's go ahead and add this particular part into the byproduct. So going back on top in here, I'm going to use motion again. So it's going to be imported, use motion, go back right now here, and I'm going to put like active, set active, use context. I'm going to use card context. And for this one, we're going to have like the same API as we did with this one. So let's copy paste this. We're going to want to just type it again. Now for this one, if you noticed before, as we showed you, now currently the by card container is actually being offsetted to the right, which is having this particular position, which means it's not having the 0th position. It's having something like 290, like 290 on the X offsetted. Why 290 exactly? If you're not like asking, because we get the width of this container to be 290, so just offsetting it 290 will make it like disappear and not shown inside of this container. Just simple as that. So now right now it's actually 290. Just to make it be shown, we have to set its X value to be 0, and this one will be like minus 290, so it just goes out and the other one goes in. So that's exactly what we want to do right here. So whenever we want to show it, we need to make sure that if it's by, so we want to just make sure it goes 0. If it's like overview, make sure it's going to 290, so it's being offsetted all the way to the right. Okay, so just provide the animating here objects. Again, that should make it look good. So let's go ahead and test this one. So we click overview, and it's not really coming. I guess we may have to set this to minus 290. Okay, this is weird. Okay, and there you go. It works right now. So just minus 290 will do the job for it. And so whenever we click it, it goes really smooth, but it has this weird spring animation that keeps like swiggling off, which doesn't really look good because you want like a smooth static transition to be applied, not a spring animation. You're not doing a game or something. And even though it doesn't look really good with spring animation, so we have to provide this one to look good. Also, we want to hide this one and only show it whenever we are actually on the by card project in there. So let's go ahead and do this one for the transition first. So we wanted to use some transition first in order to be able to work with this one. So I'm going to have, let's go ahead, basically both are going to have the same transition. So let's go ahead and create the transition in here. We can use it whenever we want to do that, okay? So I'm going to do transition. So it's going to be equal something. For the type of transition, by default is going to be spring, but right now we want it to be tween. It basically means just a smooth, linear transition or animation. And we want some duration as well, so I'm going to provide with 0.8, which is by default already happening there, but just providing it here will be much better, okay? So I'm going to just provide transition equals transition. It should be like imported for us. Pretty cool. Let's go overview and have transition again. So let's go ahead and do it. So click on it. So clearly see it goes really smooth with that, but this one is kind of like not following it right. And actually for the by card or byproduct card here is actually we don't need the 290 because it's going to be two-way offsetted, so it's going to like break the animation. So we want the animation or both of the cards to be like alongside each other, just side by side, just to get the transition animation working great. So therefore we need to provide 0 in here because it's going to be 0 positioned if it's overview, and otherwise it's just going to be -290, just get it a bit to the left. Okay, so that's basically what we want to do in that particular case. So if we go back right here, I'm going to refresh, click overviews, clearly see the animation goes really smooth for both of these containers. So click, one goes out, one goes in, and the life continues. Pretty cool. Now, the most basic stuff in here, this ugly thing is coming back into the overview. So let's go ahead and handle that real quick on the index.js. So we can go ahead and like completely remove that using like some logic in here and there, the same logic as we did before. So I'm gonna have some logic about animate, which is gonna basically start like animating here and there as we did before with that particular object using some if statement. Okay, so if it's active equals by, okay, so it's by right now, which is the case that we want to show this headphone. So the headphone should be only shown on by. I'm going to provide opacity to be 1, which is shown, completely shown. Otherwise, if it's not, you're going to have active to be overview, and I'm going to just have animate to be okay, this is bad. Opacity to be completely 0, and that should pretty much make it work as it already is. Okay, so let's go ahead and make that work in that case. So for this AirPods Max, we need to first change this from div to motion.div, otherwise it won't work for us. So that way it should make it look pretty smooth. Now we can go ahead and integrate this one. Make sure to put initial there, otherwise it won't work for you perfectly. So make sure to put initial to be starting as opacity 0. So at first it's going to be completely hidden. It's going to have opacity 0. Now animate, which means what the thing we want to animate is actually we want to animate with that particular case using either by or overview kind of properties that we want them. And for the transition, it's going to be a bit different than the others because we want this one to like take some delay and take a bit more duration to appear than the other ones, because we want it to be like completely transitioned from overview card to by card. Then we can show this AirPods image into it, so it would look absolutely sick on that. So the type is going to be the same thing. It's going to be twin. And we're gonna be needing some for the duration we're gonna be 1 because the others have 0.8, so 1 second. I guess here we should do the job for us perfectly. So yeah, anything other than that should make it look good. And I bet if we go ahead and just like try this one, so you see it appears, but it's still a bit ugly because it just like appears above the overview before the transition completes. So I guess to fix that real quick is actually what can do something quick is so the overview in here, if you see the overview container, we can give it some z index. So the z index can go 100 because we already got like z index 99 for AirPods Max. And we make sure the overview goes above the AirPods Max image on the Z index perspective in here, and it should make it look good already. So we can go into like overview, click on that. Clearly it doesn't appear until the transition is completed, until like the overview card is gone. So we click it, get this really smooth transition. It's like looking absolutely great. And there you go. So you got yourself a really smooth card that is looking pretty great with really awesome animation and transitions, frame motion, style components, kind of like 3D looking image in here. And yeah, that's pretty smooth. I actually love this card, and I love actually turning these designs into a real React, either React, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, whatever you want to call them, but just like real live animated components that make sense and can be reusable and pretty much across any kind of projects. So that's pretty much it for guys. Yeah, I hope you guys actually enjoyed this one. I hope you guys enjoyed like watching me building this one from scratch, and hope you like just get some notes or learn something using CSS, frame of motion, React, states, context, whatever. So if you guys got something from this video tutorial, hopeful for you guys, and maybe beneficial. Why not? So I hope you guys enjoyed it as always, and hope you guys enjoyed all my video stories as always. So thank you guys for watching. As I said before, catch you all hopefully in the next ones.